Hello friends, welcome back on the channel. 1 Hour Sports here as always to keep you posted on the transfer market. Today, friends, we start talking about Chelsea, Manchester United, many things to say, also something on Victor Gyökeres. Let's jump into it together. So guys, movements are starting on the market. Yesterday, I released to you updates and video talking to you about the situation of Marcus Rashford. Today, the agent of the player, the brother of Marcus Rashford, is in Italy. Meetings are ready, so discussions are ready. Marcus Rashford's camp will have face-to-face talks with AC Milan to discuss this possibility. I told you that AC Milan is a strong possibility for Marcus Rashford, but not the only one. There is also interest in Italy from Juventus. Juventus are looking for a striker. They asked for Joshua Zirkzee. But as I told you, Manchester United have no intention to open doors to a loan deal at this stage of the market. Juventus are also considering Randal Colomwani, who is in the list of Tottenham and Manchester United too. Tottenham and Juventus have been more insistent in contacts in the recent weeks. Man United just trying to understand the general situation around the player, but for sure, Colomwani is a player of interest of several clubs, and Juventus also know that Rashford is potentially available on the market, so all the clubs want to be informed. Among these clubs, we have to include also Borussia Dortmund. As we said, Borussia Dortmund will have talks with the agents of Marcus Rashford to understand the situation around the player. So Borussia Dortmund, AC Milan, let's see what Juventus decide to do with many strikers in their list. But for sure, Rashford remains one of the strong names for the January transfer window. At the moment, the player is not taking into consideration Saudi Arabia, and same for Galatasaray. Galatasaray called for Marcus Rashford, but the player wants to continue in top 5 European. Then guys, on Manchester United, I also wanted to tell you something on Kobbie Mainoo because I'm receiving many messages, many questions after all the stories in England. Obviously, as I always tell you, full respect for other journalists. Any journalist has his own information. What I can tell you guys, many of your messages are about this Chelsea story. I think it's absolutely normal for all top clubs in the world, Chelsea for sure, but also many others, to appreciate a player like Kobbie Mainoo, or how you can't love a talent like Kobbie Mainoo, or a guy who was in the academy a few months ago, 1 year ago, and then fantastic race with Manchester United, the Euros. Don't forget what this boy did for the English national team as a kid. He's a kid, and he's still making an impact, so it's absolutely normal to fall in love with Kobbie Mainoo, especially if you're an English club, but that's it at the moment. My headline is not Chelsea like Kobbie Mainoo because that's absolutely obvious and normal, but the point here is that for Manchester United at this point, there are no negotiations with any other club, no bid on the table. The situation is completely quiet. The player is under contract in 2027, plus an option till 2028. So it's not a desperate situation for Manchester United. They want to extend their contract. The negotiation was at a very good point in the first half of 2024. Then what happened? Manchester United changed many things internally. We know also what happened after with Dan Ashworth leaving the club. The situation started to change again at Manchester United. Imagine how many things changed in just 1 year. Since December 2023, new co-owners, then a new manager, then new directors, then the new director Dan Ashworth leaving, and now other people in charge. So, many things changed. And these kind of things can also change the rhythm of a negotiation. Amad Diallo is going to extend for Kobbie Mainoo. The conversation remains ongoing. At the moment, there is no agreement, but we think that a step forward will increase. But what I'm told is that the conversation remains ongoing. If you want my opinion, I keep saying, guys, when you are Manchester United, in one of the most difficult moments of your history, and you have a player like Kobbie Mainoo, you can't consider to sell a player like Kobbie Mainoo because he's coming from the academy, he's a face of Manchester United, and in difficult moments for top clubs, you need players who love the shirt, who know what does it mean to be a Manchester United player. But it's the same for all the other top clubs around the world. If you are experiencing a difficult moment for a very big club, with a big shirt, with a big tradition, with a big history, these kind of players have to be crucial in your project. So I'm sure Manchester United know this concept very well and know how important it is to have players who really care about your club and know what does it mean to wear the shirt of your club since they were kids, because we have pictures of Kobbie Mainoo in red when he was 3 or 4 years old. And I think this kind of legacy is something absolutely important. So just to close the story on Kobbie Mainoo, and then we will see this contract talks, how it's going to advance. But remember, under contract in 2027, plus an option till 2028. Also, guys, I keep receiving many questions on Victor Gyökeres from Arsenal fans. Not an easy moment for Arsenal after the game with Newcastle. Questions from Manchester United fans, because obviously Ruben Amorim is there. But guys, what I keep telling you is that, according to my information, Victor Gyökeres is not planning for a change in the January transfer window. So the idea for Victor Gyökeres is to move in the summer, to have also some help from Sporting to live with different conditions compared to the release close in the summer. So that's the view, that's the idea. The expectation is for Victor Gyökeres to leave Sporting in 2025, but respect Sporting. Sporting want to continue with this group, with these players, and so not leaving now, but in the summer transfer window to find a solution that will make the club and the player happy. So Gyökeres is not expected to be one of the names for the January transfer window. We never know in football, especially when the release closed, but at this point, there are no concrete or advanced negotiations. Then guys, I want to say some things on Chelsea, also on the outgoings. We already mentioned several things. These days, I keep mentioning to you the situation of Christopher Nkunku. Now I can see many reports. What I'm told is that with Paris Saint-Germain, there is nothing concrete, nothing advanced, nothing serious. So PSG at this point, despite all the reports from what I'm told, are not concrete suitors for Christopher Nkunku, but there is still a chance for Nkunku to leave and to go somewhere else. That's my information. It depends on the player. As I told you, Chelsea will leave it into the player hands. So if the player goes there and asks to play more and leave the club, Chelsea would be open to help the player and find a solution. So let's see what happens with Nkunku. Let's see what happens with other players, because Casadei, there is Torino pushing, 2 bids rejected. Napoli are interested, but Chelsea are still waiting for an official bid from Napoli, from Cesare Casadei. So let's see, for this situation, there is also interest from Feyenoord, but the player priority is Italy with Torino. And now Napoli also interested, but let's see when and how they will make an official bid. Then it's important to say that Disasi could leave the club. That's something that we have to consider. So there is a chance for Disasi to leave in January. He was discussed as an option with Juventus, but Juventus have different priorities. So Juventus are not intentioned to go for Disasi. Juventus are looking at different centre-backs, and I will mention about that in the next days, but Disasi could still leave Chelsea in the January transfer window, so it would be one to watch, because in case of good proposal, he could go. And remember that Chelsea want to bring in one more centre-back. They have a recall clause for Trevor Chalobah. They made some contacts for Marguerite at Crystal Palace. So in general, Chelsea are looking at the centre-back position. For Chelsea also, Desbury Hall could leave the club in January. Chelsea are open to proposals. So Chelsea are absolutely waiting for opportunities. We know also about Ben Chilwell, but Chelsea will be busy with the outgoings because, as I said, centre-back is a situation to follow for Chelsea for sure, a position they could cover. And then the offensive positions, because Mudryk has this ban problem, because Nkunku could leave in case the player wants. And so Chelsea are also considering opportunities for offensive positions. We will see what kind of player and if they really decide to proceed. And so guys, let me know your thoughts on all these stories, from Rashford to Kobbie Mainoo, but also Disasi, Gyökeres, and all the others. I wait for your opinion. Hit in comments, like this video, turn on the notification bell, subscribe to the channel. See you soon. Ciao. Distractions of having all that noise. Real Madrid are a hell of an animal. I thought it was insulting to be unfair for Real Madrid. I mean, they behave like that sometimes. They think they can get what they want. But Liverpool are a football club of immense stature. They're never going to sell Trent AlexanderArnold for 20 million quid to you in January. So you're taking them out a little bit, you know what I mean? You're taking the mickey out of us. So I think that will have probably unnerved him this week. You can imagine his agents, his family all saying, "Oh, what's happening, Trent?" You can imagine that noise going on in his head before this game, which I don't think would have been helpful. I know that footballers, they would have known what was happening. Okay, so you said that out there. Sorry, just to let you know, we were just on a podcast where he said he thinks that Trent's people will have invited the bid from Real Madrid. I think that's quite a big suggestion to make. Personally, what I'm saying is we're not naive enough. These two lads have been involved in transfers. We haven't. But I'm not naive enough to think that Real Madrid would put a bid in January for a player who they can get for nothing in sort of 4 months. Why would Trent's people say put a bid in when they know it's going to be turned down? Do you seriously believe that they don't know nothing about it? So this bid comes in and they're sat at home sitting on Sky Sports. No, I know they know about it, but why would Trent Alexander-Arnold's people think it's a good idea for him, knowing Liverpool are going to say no? Because he's getting a lot of criticism for the fact that he might leave for free. Now, if Real Madrid put a bid in January and then Liverpool don't accept it, maybe they can say at the end of the season, well, you were offered 30, 40 million. To me, it was almost to buy a little bit of time at the end of the season if he goes for free, that they can say, well, Liverpool were offered 20, 30 million. It's a lose-lose though, Daniel. Do you think it's realistic? It's a lose-lose either way you go. If you leave for free or if you leave now, it's a lose-lose. Obviously, everyone that's involved in the football club should want him to stay. In these moments when a player is running his contract down, and I've been in this situation when I was at Man City as a young player, when you're in these moments and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I want to stay at the football club. The club clearly known all this time that Trent Alexander-Arnold's contract was running down. We're now going to put it all on Trent and make out as if it's Trent's fault that Real Madrid have put a bid in when his contract has 6 months left. He's one of the best players in the world in this position, as is Mo Salah, as is Virgil van Dijk. Neither of the three of them should be in this predicament. Presumably, Daniel, they've had opportunities to sign a contract at some stage. Dave, we don't know that. We don't know if contracts have been offered and contracts were rejected. Obviously, Jurgen's contract and him coming out last season saying, hey guys, I'm leaving, that was a spanner in the works for everybody. I think the club were at panic stations and we're probably thinking, okay, our priority right now is to find the best manager to replace Jurgen Klopp. We'll put the contracts on the back burner. Maybe we can find, we'll sort the guys out later on. But for me, to leave these three players in a predicament like this, I said that to him up there. The club, obviously, have let these contracts all run down simultaneously, all three together. Three of the best players in the club, probably the most valuable three players in the club. And the problem is with football clubs, because I own a football club, when you've signed a player or you've brought a player through the ranks, it hurts you sometimes when you feel like you've got to pay for the transfer fee again. So do you understand what I mean by that? So Mo Salah now, the economics of Mo Salah is he wants a 3-year deal at £400,000 a week, which is £20 million a year, which is £60 million. But to replace that, if that's what he wants, he probably deserves that and should get it. Because to replace Mo Salah, you probably have to pay £60 to £70 million for a fee and £10 to £15 million a year. So it'll cost you £120 million. And there's no guarantee that player will come in and do what Salah's doing. And for Trent, as being a young player who's come through the ranks at a club, you almost, in some ways, sometimes can get a little bit bullied by the fact that, oh, you've got to sign for us, we brought you through. There's a bit of that as well in the club. I'm not saying Liverpool are doing that, but there is probably another side to the story. All I'm saying is the reason he's been bad out there today can be one of two reasons. Well, three reasons. One, he has had games like that before and he can get done defensively. Secondly, he could just have a bad day. And thirdly, he could have just had all that noise in his head all week and distraction and just not been at it. You talk about him being a top player and we know defensively he's not great. But the manager made the point, you made it clear to him before. He's been left 1 versus 1 and he needs help around it. But at the highest level, the lads have done it. You will be left 1 versus 1. That's practically being a top defender. There will be situations in games where you're pushing and you're pressing and you get an equalizer and you have to deal with 1 versus 1s. So that shouldn't be a big panic for a player. But the thing out here is he's left 1 versus 1 with Dalot. It wasn't Ryan Giggs. Dalot in the first minute of the game, who's been turning back on his right foot and passing it round the way all week, went straight for him. The only thing I would say today about Trent Alexander-Arnold is I wasn't disappointed with his defending. I mean, he didn't defend well, but he's done that before. I thought his pass and his forward play was probably the worst I've seen it. Because if you think about that pass at the end into midfield that obviously United get the goal from, he doesn't normally make so many mistakes on the ball. He's normally a bigger threat with his crossing. So I thought he was disappointed on the ball. It's a contract situation, but I don't understand. There's a lot of negativity and local fans will be having a go at him. But if they don't agree a contract and he leaves, and the amount of games he's played for Liverpool is well over 300, he's won titles. And if Liverpool, why can't everyone show a little bit of class and say, listen, we can't agree a deal, but you're 26, 27. All the best to you. Daniel, is that realistic? No, it can't happen. My kind of club say, well, we can't agree a deal with you. You've given us great service. He's not jumped ship after playing for 2 seasons. What can I say? He's a local lad. But there's a business side to it as well. So you're right, but Liverpool, take Carragher and Steven Gerrard. Liverpool sort of like, they were in this city. You felt as though they were almost like they couldn't leave. Almost like lads that you knew. Then you have lads, let's say like Michael Owen, who are sort of slightly different. And that they see this journey of going and playing for Real Madrid and playing in different parts of the world. Manchester City, it concerns Sir Kyle Walker, who you might have noticed wasn't in the matchday squad today for their FA Cup game against Salford. While manager Pep Guardiola has revealed that Walker has asked to leave the club after that 8-0 win over Salford in the FA Cup. Guardiola said Walker has asked to explore the options to play abroad. And that is why he was left out of today's game. Yes, 2 years ago, after Bayern Munich, I think, won him, but the offer was not good enough. And I asked him, the club asked him, how important it is. We cannot understand the success that we had these years without Kyle. It's impossible. having our right back and give us something that we didn't have and have been amazing. And he said, but now in his mind, he would like to explore, already to go to another country, to play the last years for many reasons. And for that reason, I prefer to play in another place. His mind is here. That's all. You've always allowed players, when they come to you and ask to move, he went to the club, he went to Cheeky, he didn't speak with me, but of course, maybe I'm wrong, maybe like that, but still, I'm pretty convinced that there is no one person in our jobs, whatever job, that doesn't want to be where they are, can perform, or can, be exactly what they want to be. Ask, just explore. That doesn't mean it's going to happen because we never know. Explore the situation, the position, and I respect a lot because I'm more than grateful for what he has done these many years with us since he arrived 8 years ago. After the first season here, start to win. He has been important with the national team. For your country, important of course with our team, but he said that I want to explore my mind and my heart, and I want to be another, explore it, and honestly, I don't know what is going to happen.
Before the break, I said Manchester City are getting busy. There's been a development. Michael Bridge, we've just spoken to our colleagues in Germany, Mike, and Omar Mahmoud has agreed in principle a move to Manchester City pending an agreement between the two clubs. Now, the negotiations over a deal are expected to start over the next few days, with Frankfurt wanting a fee around £67 million, but an opening offer could come around this weekend. Here, Al Mamouche wants to come, and he's the first choice for Pep Guardiola, and Eintracht Frankfurt are now going to negotiate with Manchester City, and they are aware of Mamouche's choice. So, to reiterate the top story, Omar Mamouche agreed a move in principle to Manchester City, pending an agreement between the clubs. Okay, Mark, Eintracht Frankfurt going well in the Bundesliga, going well in the Europa League. I would suggest to you they must have somebody lined up to come in. Yes, they do. And potentially it could be a Premier League player as well who's been lacking in game time so far this season. Our colleagues in Germany have reported that Eintracht Frankfurt are closely monitoring Nicolas Füllkrug's situation at West Ham. The striker is on their short list in the events of Omar Mamouche leaving for Manchester City. One Hour Sports in Italy have also been reporting this month that Juventus have an interest in the Germany international who's found game time hard to come by in East London. So that is one to keep an eye on. Of course, it's that domino effect that we talk about so many times in transfer windows. One player goes, someone else goes, that frees up someone else to go. This could be one of those situations. Ties in nicely because he scored a good goal against City, didn't he, at the weekend? So let's stay with Manchester City then, Mark. They're after a defender as well. Give us a name. You said at the top of the show, didn't you? Lovely Manchester. You said just then that Manchester City could be busy in this window, things hotting up, and you get the feeling that an injection of fresh faces is exactly what they need at the moment. Things have gone a little bit stale. Now, this face would be a young face. 18-year-old center back Vitor Rich, a good prospect, and I've spoken to a number of scouts that have watched a lot of football and say he's an exciting player, but he's still very young, got a lot to learn. Manchester City have approached Palmeiras with regards to doing a deal, but it's in the early stages at the moment. There's a few conflicting stories with regards to the price, and I guess when you look at Omar Mahmoud and Rich, there are players there that are not going to be cheap for Manchester City, so they may be splashing the cash in this January transfer window. Palmeiras, according to one source, have been saying they want around, which is about £33.5 million for an 18-year-old center back. However, some of our other sources have been saying the fee could be upwards of £40 million as well. So this would be a significant outlay for a player. Very highly thought of, but 18-year-old center back to come in and save your season sounds like a lot of pressure on the lad. Of course, if he was to come in with Mahmoud and one or two others, then actually it could be just a start of a new era at Manchester City. One other thing to just put on your radar, Mike, Manchester City in the market for a central midfielder in this window should the right type of profiled player come to them. Now, there's no names attached to that at the moment. However, that's certainly an option that they're looking at and wouldn't walk away from a deal should the right player present itself. So, center back, inside forward, Mahmoud, possibly a midfielder, could be an interesting window to watch Pep Guardiola and see what he does, because he needs to shake that team up.
Want Mark Gorhey. What can you tell us, Mark? Yeah, a player that we were speaking about a huge amount over the course of this summer. We know that Newcastle were very interested in Mark Gorhey, the Crystal Palace defender. I lost track as to how many offers were rejected. I think there was about 4 of them in the end. I think the biggest totaled £65 million. Newcastle couldn't get their man. He stayed at Selhurst Park and has been an important figure for them in what has been a really challenging season. But we have some breaking news that you'd rightly say has been brought to our attention over the course of the last hour or so. Chelsea are interested in signing Marc Guéhi. One of the reasons they're signing that is because of the injury to Wesley Fofana, who's had a tired time since joining the club at Stamford. He's had a tired time for Bridge. That really has found game time hard to come by because he hasn't been able to get a consistent run. However, Chelsea are looking at their current squad, they're looking at defensive injuries, and they see Marc Guéhi as someone that potentially could step into the plate. Just 24 years old. Significantly, he only has 18 months left on his current Crystal Palace contract. One thing that's really interesting about this as well is because there is one player that's currently on loan from Chelsea to Crystal Palace, Trevor Chalobah. So it may be an interesting topic of conversation when the dialogue happens between Crystal Palace and Chelsea and they say, look, we're interested in Marc Guéhi. However, if we can't come to an agreement there, we might have to recall Chalobah. So which would you rather lose? So that might be an interesting point when the two clubs do start to communicate. But the key news is Chelsea are interested in Marc Guéhi. Like that. Damez, there was a time when Chelsea were doing business and we all giggled behind our hands. We don't do that anymore because it looks like they've done brilliant business and they've got their squad right. It's, do we expect them to actually do more business in this window? I think when we talk about more business, I think they'll always be open to doing business, depending if the right opportunity was to come along. But we should also look at potential departures at Chelsea, which was the big theme before June the 31st. And I've taken, 3 or 4 minutes into this transfer show to mention those 3 letters, PSR. And I'm not saying Chelsea are in danger of breaching PSR, but every single club will have that just lurking in the background. They want to make sure that they're not scrambling around trying to do deals before June the 30th to ensure that they can go into the summer and really go for it. So I think there could be an opportunity if the right offers were to come to Chelsea for a few of their players to be allowed to leave. I think they would listen to offers for the likes of Ben Chilwell, for Chukwuemeka and Cesare Casadei. And I don't think Enzo Maresca has made a secret of that. He's pretty upfront as Enzo Maresca. When he's asked the question, if Ben Chilwell has been out of his squad, for example, for a few weeks, has he got a future here? Maybe he hasn't. Maybe we have to listen to offers in January. So I think, while we speak about Marc Guéhi, just keep an eye on potential departures at Chelsea as well.